My name's Debra Coleman, and tonight I'm happy to be working for the mouse.
As opposed to the man.
Yeah, right. Architecture students who came back from their junior year in Italy were easy to spot. They were cool and unconventional. So when I came back from my final year of college, I had the swagger, I had the look, purple silk bathrobe and a bright red plastic red Fiorucci bag. And I had a letter from the financial aid office that said I had been awarded exactly $0. Holy cap and gown. I had forgotten to apply for financial aid. Sono stupida. Now, most kids at this point would call their parents and just ask for help, but a few years earlier, I'd made a huge stinking deal with my parents about becoming financially independent. So, sure, I didn't have any money, but I still had my dignity. I started calling my friends to see whose sofa I could sleep on first. One friend said he had prepaid for his apartment for the year but wouldn't be back for until the second semester. Great, I could stay there for free, and his roommate was a DOT worker who was only home on the weekends. I thought I had the perfect setup until Mr. DOT started hitting on me. He would say things like, "If you're in the bathroom taking a shower, you don't mind if I just come in and take a pee, do you?" Or, "Why don't you ask your boyfriend to come over for dinner? I'll make fettuccine Alfredo, we'll smoke some weed, I'll show you my slides," which he had taken with his telephoto lens from the cliffs overlooking the local nudist beach. And he said, "But you better watch out because I can get a little crazy and I'll just tear off my clothes and dance naked on the fireplace, and you just never know what the three of us might do after that." And I thought, I know what I'm not doing. So I moved to my architecture studio on campus. This was a room that was brightly lit, had about 20 drafting tables in it. Up front there was a model making area with glue guns and Dremel tools, and there was a counter with a sink in it to wash our special ink pens out that we used for our drawings. And I moved my stuff in and put it under my desk and tried to pass this off as if anyone who was as cool and unconventional as I was wouldn't think twice about sleeping under her desk. I don't know what the other students thought about this, but the janitors certainly wondered about me. They would stand over me and say, "Do you think that's a man or a woman in that sleeping bag?" One night, I had a hot plate which I'd put on the counter next to the sink. I made pasta, and I was draining the pasta, and whoosh, all the noodles went down the drain and plugged it up like concrete, and the sink overflowed, and the maintenance people came in, and then the health inspector and the fire marshal, and I was getting a very clear message here. "Debra, you better un-Charlie Foxtrot this Charlie Foxtrot." I had to get out of there before I was arrested. So, first I needed a job, and I found one. I was out the door by 4:30 in the morning, so I avoided the leering janitors. I would scamper across campus in the dark, go down, 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 down to the subterranean levels of the university, and make my way like a mole through a dimly lit hallway it was moist and roachy, and I'd take my place in the salad-making room of the dining hall kitchen. I'd put out my styrofoam bowls, and I'd put the chemically treated lettuce, iceberg lettuce, in the bowls, and then I'd put cheese on top, and then came the egg garnish, which was my favorite part of this job. I loved unwrapping the egg tube. Yes, I said egg tube. The eggs were shaped like this. They had perfectly round yolks, perfectly round egg whites. And when you put them, they were like Play-Doh eggs or egg weenies or something. when you put them in the slicer, you got perfect circles of egg every time, which is deeply satisfying to a future architect. My only break from this monotony of making mini cheese salads was Jell-O Thursday, when I would get big trays of Jell-O from the cooler room, bring it out to the prep area. And one Thursday, I did this, and I noticed that the Jell-O was covered in mold, so I went and got my boss, Nance. Now, Nance always wore a white blouse to work, and she would roll her sleeves up right up into her armpits. She always kept a pack of Marlboros in one sleeve, and so you didn't mess with Nance. She took one look at this Jell-O, grabbed a dirty wet rag from the counter, wiped it off, and then said, "Now cut it up and send it to the faculty dining room." I finally had enough money to move to a warehouse. There was an auto shop on the first floor and storage rooms, and I took the space above. I told the landlord I was going to use it as an art studio because you weren't allowed to live there, even though there was a guy that I used to see at night who was scurrying around down below. There was a sink, toilet, shower, no hot water. There was a room on the third floor and a ladder up to it. It was sort of like a tree house, and I slept up there. It was like a tree house with 10 deadbolts on the door. Now, surely this warehouse was a move up in the world for me, but I set my sights even higher. I put my name on the list for a place called the Arc, which was the architecture students' commune since the 1960s. And it took a unanimous vote to get in, and I made the cut. At last, I had my own room with a sleeping loft, a skylight that looked out onto the roof. Every week, we'd pair up once a week, take $24, go buy food, cook dinner, clean up, and the rest of the nights you just had to show up for dinner, and it was served. This place was the creme de la creme. After graduation, I brought my family over for a tour, and as soon as they got out of the car, one of my sisters said, "There is no way you live in that dump." And I wanted to say, well, sure, it used to be a whorehouse, but now it has its own sauna. For the next month, one of my comrades, Virginia, and I sat in the TV room drinking beer and watching soap operas and game shows. We were suffering from post-graduation syndrome until rent was due, and neither of us had $175. She said, "Come with me," and I said, "Where?" And she said, "Trust me." We pulled into the parking lot of the Madonna Inn, past the live lion in its chain link cage to the employment office, and we were promptly hired as maids. Yeah, maids. Glamorous. Now, most of you, maybe you know the Madonna, and it's an icon. It's sort of Barbie meets Liberace with the signature color Pepto-Bismol pink. If you have every room has a fantasy theme, so if you can think of it, they have a room for you. And I know someone right now has just thought Buffalo Room. They've got you covered. The supervisors for the housekeeping were like prison guards. They had walkie-talkies and big rings of keys, and they'd go in the rooms before us, and they'd take all the tip money, and then they'd stand at the door and say, with stopwatches, and say, "Go," and we'd race in, and because we had strict time quotas to meet. One of the most difficult rooms to clean was the caveman room. which is just like it sounds. It was a big cave with a cave bathroom. And the guests seemed to take the theme of the room quite literally and go all Lord of the Flies inside and just like